Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to another edition, another segment of Sports Take. He's Derek Gunn. I'm your guy, Tone DeShills II, filling in for Rob Ellis. Now, like we said before, Rob is busy with his family, dropping his daughter off at college. She's going to be a freshman this year. Shout out to her. And it's really exciting to be here with you, D-Gun. Like I said, you made that first segment very easy, as always, man. You know, I'm starting to feel like, we're more than brothers from another mother. After I shaved my head, I started calling you Papa Bear, man, because everyone's, everybody said we're twinning. So I'm gonna start calling you Papa Bear from now on.
Papa Bear?
Papa Bear. No offense, Dad. No offense, Dad.
You're family, so I'll give you that one.
Now, listen, I won't be family until I get some of that famous brisket, okay? So don't call me family because I'll pop up at the barbecue.
I don't know, man. I can't even tell you. It's been over a year since I've done a brisket. I'll throw some ribs in the smoke every now and then. You know, my time has been limited, but a brisket, a good brisket take you about 15 hours to do it right.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen, I come over for the ribs then. Shoot, ribs, burgers, dogs. I need some of that famous D-Gun sauce. I need every bit of that, D-Gun. Don't stop holding out on me and Rob. You have been.
Me? Hold out? I wouldn't call it holding out, Tone. It's just like I tell Barrett all the time. I tell people all the time, I love you like family, but I love you from afar. You see what I'm saying? See, I got to keep you at bay. Because he wants to let you in. See, then that anticipation is over. But I keep you at bay. See, it's like, you know what? Somehow, some way, you start thinking like Barrett. I got to find a way to get through the back door. D-Gun won't let me through the front door. So I got to find a way to get through the back door. So I got to keep you guessing.
Hey, listen, all I know is I need some barbecue. I need some nutritious baked goods. I need all of that. I need all of that, okay?
Man.
As a matter of fact, really quick, before we get into these Sixers, because we have some more to talk about with these Sixers. We all know what's going on with James Harden and Daryl Morey. But I have a fun fact for you, a very random, very impromptu fun fact that I've been thinking about lately, and you might not believe it. And it's not sports related. Did you know sharks are older than trees?
Wait a minute. Man, that's deep. Hold up.
That's deep, man. That's deep.
Now, they claim sharks go back millions and millions of years. Okay. And they say the same thing about, some trees, 100 years old, they base it by the rings. When eventually a tree, dries out or, chop it down for whatever reason, they base how old a tree is by the rings and the stump,
Right. I'll put it to you this way. Sharks evolved about 40 million years before woody trees ever towered the Earth's landscape. Fun fact, everybody. We're not going to stay on it too long, but I had to throw it out there to my man D-Gun. I had to stump him a little bit. No pun intended.
See, here's what I never understood. All of these brilliant scientists and stuff. How can you say a shark was on the Earth 40 million years ago? I don't care if you do find skeletons embedded in a rock. How do you determine if it was just 2,000 years ago or 40 million years ago? We don't know how long the planet has been in existence. We don't know when the first life form hit this planet. There's nobody that can tell you that. But yet we live by all these estimates that these 23 million years before BC.
I call them guesstimates, right? Call them guesstimates.
Look, I can sit and tell you right now, dogs and cats been around since 25 zillion years ago. Does that mean I'm accurate?
Hey.
I don't know.
You know what's so funny? It's funny how they always say, yeah, give or take 1 or 2 million years. That's a pretty big gap. That's a pretty big gap. You know what I'm saying? But since we're talking about estimates, right?
It's like people who guess the weather on a daily basis. From what we've seen with all these multi-billion-dollar satellites and all this stuff,
right?
Predicting the weather is still a best guesstimate. Okay, it's not an accurate science. They're like accurate, what, 55, 60% of the time? I wish I had a job I could be accurate 55, 60% of the time.
Man, in the sports game, you gotta pray to be as accurate as you possibly can be. But speaking of accuracy and also speaking of estimates, I want you to estimate, how soon do you expect James Harden to be traded? How soon? Give me a nice guesstimate before the season starts, before training camp, before the trade deadline, after the what's your guesstimate, right? Because this goes beyond just James Harden now. I want to lay the groundwork a little bit before you answer, right? We all know James Harden called Daryl Morey a liar. Bold-faced liar yesterday. Now I'm adding a little bit of seasoning on it. He called him a bold-faced liar yesterday. And he will never play in an organization where Daryl Morey is. But another thing transpired today, D-Gun. Another thing has happened. Apparently, Joel Embiid has removed Philadelphia from his location on Twitter /X or X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. But Joel Embiid has, like you always say, he's thrown a shot over the bow, right? He removed Philadelphia from his bio on Twitter. Now, we know in this new modern era of athlete, if you want to send a message to your respective organization, you're going to do it on social media. That's not really my style. That's not the era I come from. If I got a problem, you're going to hear it from me. But these guys like to make their grievances known on social media. So, obviously, we know what we know about James Harden with him calling Daryl Morey a liar. And then you couple that with the Joel Embiid situation, him removing Philadelphia off of his Twitter. How do you process that information? How do you digest that? Where do the Sixers go from here, knowing what we know today at this present moment?
James Harden has handcuffed the Sixers, and the Sixers have handcuffed themselves. And here's why. James Harden not only said it once, he said it twice. In a span of 15 seconds yesterday, he said it twice. Daryl Morey is a liar. Morey immediately comes out and says, we have no intentions of trading James Harden. Okay? So somebody's got to give at some point. Okay? Unless right now you are trading James Harden for a pair of socks and a jockstrap, you have no trade partner for James Harden. Nobody wants James Harden right now. The Clippers sure didn't want him. That's where he wanted to go. Unless you're just going to put the advertiser out there, we'll take basketball, socks, and a jockstrap for James Harden just to get him out of here, which you're not going to do. You're not going to give a commodity like that just away, because then what is the rest of the league, but more importantly, your fan base and the media in your city going to think about you and say about you, especially because this entire summer has been a nightmare to begin with? I don't think they can trade James Harden right now. The only way they can trade James Harden, I believe, is when the season starts, and if another team has a significant player go down and they get desperate enough to where they need some firepower in a hurry, especially if they're winning more than they're losing, then they might buck their system to bring a James Harden in, knowing he may be one and done with our team for this season. But if he helps us get to where we want to go, then it might be worth the headache of bringing James Harden in. I don't know about you, but I don't think they can trade James Harden right now or anytime in the foreseeable future.
They have no leverage in the situation right now.
Nope.
Everyone knows that they're trying to get rid of him, but even more than that, everyone knows that he doesn't want to be there. So at that point, that already undercuts his value. That undercuts what the Philadelphia 76ers could even try to get for him. It was already a tough time trying to move him prior to him becoming more vocal about his displeasure of being in Philadelphia. But now, I believe his trade value can't get any lower than this. But it is James Harden. Maybe it could.
If I was James Harden's representation, now let's face it, there are certain players, agents, representation, marketing people just can't control. They're going to speak their minds for better or worse, come hell or high water, no matter how much the representation tells them. Please don't say anything. Let's see if we can work something behind closed door. Now, James Harden, he comes out in front of a multitude of people and calls his boss, his former friend now, a bold-faced liar twice in the span of 15 seconds. Now you have put an unnecessary strain on your tenure here and your ability to move elsewhere because you've come out and do that. And because of his past history of forcing his way out of situations, he has also put handcuff on the organization who might try to deal you now with any other trade partner. Because if I'm a potential trade partner with the Philadelphia 76ers for James Harden, guess who has the leverage now? I do as that potential trade partner, because if there were one or two players I might have thought a month ago that I would possibly give up for James Harden, I may not have to give those players up now. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I see you in a bind here, but our mindset's a little different now. We don't feel we need to give up X amount of draft picks or players to get a James Harden. The onus is on you because it's an embarrassing situation. How badly do you want to move James? I.e., I have the leverage now and you don't. We're not on an even playing field now in terms of negotiating. You are clearly at a disadvantage because of your situation. You have Daryl Morey, whose job is in jeopardy now. You have a premier player in the league who has flat out said he is not playing for the 76ers this year. And you have nowhere to go. So what are you going to do?
No, you're right. You're right. It's funny how we got here. Remember, Harden, he opted in to the final season of his 2-year, $68.8 million deal. So he is no way he was going to walk away from $35 million in the bank, right? And he opted in, assuming that they would try to strike a deal and get him elsewhere, right? If he opted out, he could have tried to get a max deal, 4 years, worth up to $210 million, but no one is investing that kind of capital in a James Harden of today. Maybe if you caught James Harden 5 years ago, sure, no problem. You'll pay him whatever the price tag is. But I think both of these parties, the Sixers and James Harden's camp, I think both parties have been handling or rather mishandling this situation to the highest degree.
Oh, there's no question about it. I said it yesterday, and I'm going to say it again today. There's a part of me that feels that James Harden feels he was duped because we were all shocked that he decided to opt in for $35 million when we all assumed that we were all against it, but we all assumed that the Sixers were going to give this dude a max contract for the next 3 years. That didn't happen. James opts in, and we're like, wait a minute, what? And then all of a sudden, things continue to unravel. I think James felt that he was given a guarantee from the Sixers. If you opt in, we'll move you, man. We got trade partners out there. Well, we saw Phoenix bowed out real quick. I believe it was Cleveland or the Knicks that bowed out real quick.
Houston as well.
Houston bowed out real quick. And all of a sudden, the one last team he really wanted to go to, the Clippers, said, you know what? It ain't worth it. And now the Sixers are like, oh, shoot. And James is thinking, hold up. You promised me you were going to trade me if I opted in. Yeah, you know what, James? We tried, man. But, did the Sixers overprice? Did they over-request what they thought they could get from James Harden and teams didn't buckle? They might have over-evaluated what they thought they could get for James Harden in return. And now they're sitting here where they're going to face.
They clearly overvalued those 2 playoff performances that he put together as well, because I feel like a lot of people realize that the problem with James Harden today is not the fact that he can't give you the numbers that you want. It's that his good games and his bad games, there are too many highs and lows with a guy like James Harden right now in his career. Like, there's no steady performance from him. It's not like a bad game for James Harden is 22 points, 6 assists, 3 boards or whatever. A bad game for James Harden these days is 8, 10, 12 points. It maybe 6, 7 assists. You know what I mean? His highs are too far away from his lows. There's no middle ground with him, and I don't think teams right now can really see themselves investing big money in the guy that's playing at that caliber of play. And I want to double back to Joel Embiid because I don't want what he did to kind of fall under the radar by removing the Philadelphia stuff from your social media. Again, that's a very passive aggressive way of indicating your displeasure with the way their organization has been going. And I'm not saying he's been getting the right end of the stick at all throughout his time in Philly. He's been getting paid, right? They've always given him his money, but when it comes to building a team around him, he's been through so many different roster changes with the Marco Bellinellis, the Ersin Ilyasovas, the JJ Redicks, the Markelle Fultz, the Ben Simmons, the Robert Covington, the Al Horford, the Jimmy Butlers. I can go on currently with Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey. I can go on and on about the different things he's had to deal with this organization. And he's already laid the groundwork. He's already been planting the seeds of his potential departure. Remember, he was on, I believe he was on a program for Uninterrupted, and he indicated that, he'll be totally comfortable winning a championship in Philly or, and by his words, or anywhere else, right? So that begs the question, should the Philadelphia 76ers consider, I'm not saying they should, but should they consider finding a situation that they can get the most for a guy like Joel Embiid? And I'm not saying this season, but again, he's already laid the groundwork for a potential departure, maybe after next season. And also, let me add this in too, D-Gun, before you answer. He's also entering the first year of that new contract where he, his 4-year, $213 million contract that he signed in September of 2022, also coming off of an MVP season. His value will never be higher than what it is today. Is there a scenario, is there a situation where Joel Embiid could be on the outs as well? Maybe not this season, but maybe next season or beyond.
Absolutely. You're not going to trade him this season because, let's face it, Joel Embiid is still your marquee draw to get people in the seats.
Right.
Whether it's at home or on the road, and you're still making money. Even though you're paying him a lot of money, he's still making a lot of money for the 76ers organization. If this team bows out in the first round next year, second round at the very latest, again, then you start looking at the possibility of rebuilding this entire team. And if you, in order to rebuild this entire team, what do you have to do? Take a marquee player, get as many draft picks as you can get a few players that that you can put in a starting lineup to make your product respectable in 2024. But you also get a grace period with the fan base, because the fan base understands once you make that trade for Joel Embiid that you are rebuilding. You are going in a new direction. You went as far as you could with Joel Embiid as your marquee player, your franchise player. It just didn't work out, as the whole process just didn't work out for the last decade. That's when you tell your fan base, give us time. We're asking you again to give us time. As frustrated as the fan base is going to be, they understand there's another process in place. Now let's wait and see what happens with the second tenure of the so-called process. Okay. And then you unload that contract of Joel Embiid off on somebody else. But you can't trade him now, especially with this Harden mess sitting in front of you. You got to have Joel Embiid here. Now, Joel Embiid, to me, by taking down the Sixers logo from his X account, Twitter account, always will be Twitter to me.
Always will be Twitter to me.
All you want. Tells me that he is as frustrated as you can possibly be. Because he's got to be thinking, well, if James Harden ain't playing, it's just me, Tobias, and Maxey, and maybe Patrick, Beverly, who's a great motivator. To me, Beverly's like a more athletic version of PJ Tucker. He's going to get in people's faces. He can give you a few points. He can give you some defense, but he's not a player you're going to build around long-term. He can give you immediate help right now, but he's not a long-term solution to what you're trying to do. But look at the rest of the roster beyond that. It's a huge question mark. It's a huge question mark. So your bench is a question mark. Your 5 starters, in a lot of ways, are a question mark. If Harden is not here, who are your 5 starters for this team? Okay, you got Maxey, you got Harris, and Embiid. Who's your next 2 starters? PJ Tucker, who might give you 5 points a week.
Jeez, that sounds crazy. 5 points a week.
If he give you 5 points a week, you're happy, right? When he gives you 10 points, you're like ecstatic. PJ Tucker dropped in 10 points. What? So who's your other 2 starters on this team?
No, I hear you. I totally hear you. I'm of the mindset that I had to see what this Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey pair can do. I've already written it in my mind. It's already inscribed in my mind that James Harden, won't put on another Sixers jersey. I've already made that up in my mind. I think that's just a foregone conclusion. So I'm already picturing life without him. It's so funny. A guy like Tyrese Maxey, he's been a guy who's constantly, elevated his game every single season. And, there are definitely deficiencies in his game defensively. And also we don't know if he can truly play that true point guard role at some point. Can he run the offense? I think those are all fair questions. But I think he deserves an opportunity to be able to see if he can run a solid pick and roll with Joel Embiid. That 2-man game, right? I think we deserve to see what that looks like, because I think Tyrese Maxey is a guy that he's never truly going to really activate his full potential until James Harden is completely out the building.
I think, and this is not a knock because I love Tyrese Maxey's game.
Right.
I don't think he'll ever be a 1. I think he'll always be a 2. I don't think he'll ever develop into a 1. I don't think he's built to be that type of guard to be a 1. I think he's more suited to be that off guard, and let him do his thing in that regard. And if that's the case, where are you going to find your 1 guard? Where are you going to get him from? Are you going to spend money, whether it's this season or next off season? You don't have a lot of money you can spend this season as it is. So where are you going to find him? See, this team is handcuffed not just this year, but unless they deal Embiid, what are you going to have in 24? To be honest, seriously, what are you going to have? This team is in such a gray area right now, man. It's 3 consecutive years you can't get past the first round. Your team is unraveling right before your very eyes. You got one player who says, I'm never playing for him again. Your franchise player is taking down the team logo from his Twitter account. This is a natural born mess right now with no end in sight.
It is. And that's the sad part about it, right? The Philadelphia 76ers historically have been a very respectable franchise. And it just seems like now they're just spiraling. And it's pretty like at this point, we're always waiting for the final pin to drop. D-Gun, let's sneak in another break here. Next up, we have a very special guest coming on to the show. Our guy Dan Cilio is going to be coming on, showing us a lot of love and helping us out here while our guy Rob Ellis is taking his daughter to college. Man, shout out to Rob, shout out to Dan Cilio for coming in on short order. You guys have been locked in on Sports Take. He is Derek Gunn. I'm your guy Tone DeShields II. We'll be back in a little bit, you guys. Stay tuned. Don't move